By 2009, one of America's biggest pizza companies faced an uncomfortable truth. Millions of customers believed Domino's pizza simply didn't taste very good. The criticism wasn't coming from a handful of unhappy diners. It appeared in customer service, online reviews, focus groups, even late night television had turned Domino's into the punchline of a joke. People mocked the crust, complained about the sauce. Some admitted they ordered Domino's only because it was fast, not because it made the best pizza. For most companies, criticism like that would trigger a new advertising campaign or another promotional offer. Domino's did something almost unimaginable. It admitted its customers were right, publicly. Few global consumer brands had ever built a national advertising campaign around acknowledging that their own product had failed to meet customer expectations. It was an extraordinary gamble because once you tell millions of people your product isn't good enough, there is only one way to regain their trust: to make the product actually better. The decision would become the turning point in one of the greatest business comebacks of the modern era. But the real question isn't why Domino's admitted it had a problem. It's why one of the world's largest pizza companies allowed the problem to exist in the first place. In 1960, brothers Tom and James Monaghan bought a small pizza store in Michigan for just $900. Within months, James left the business, leaving Tom to build the company alone. Tom wasn't trying to create the world's largest pizza chain. He was trying to solve a simple business problem. How do you deliver a hot meal quickly, consistently, and profitably? That single question shaped Domino's for decades. While many competitors focused on large menus, dine-in restaurants, and elaborative customer experience, Domino's became obsessed with operational simplicity. The menu remained intentionally small, kitchen layouts were standardized, training was identical across locations. Every process was designed to produce the same result every single time. The objective wasn't to make the most sophisticated pizza, it was to make a dependable one and deliver it faster than anyone else can. That discipline became Domino's greatest competitive advantage, and for decades it worked brilliantly. Throughout the 1970s and 80s, Domino's expanded rapidly through franchising. Its operating model could be replicated almost anywhere. One successful store became 10, 10 became 100, eventually thousands. By the early 2000s, Domino's had grown into one of the largest pizza chains in the world. Then came another important chapter. After Bain Capital acquired Domino's in 1998, Dave Brandon became Chief Executive Officer the following year. His focus wasn't on reinventing the business, it was on making successful business even stronger. The franchise network expanded, operations became more efficient, technology investments accelerated. In 2004, Domino's raised approximately $337 billion through its initial public offering, providing capital for its next phase of growth. A few years later, the company introduced Pizza Tracker, allowing customers to follow their orders from preparation to delivery, a feature that was years ahead of many competitors. From the outside, Domino's looked stronger than ever. Sales were growing, stores were opening, technology was improving. Almost every number suggested that the company was moving in the right direction. Almost. Because while Domino's had become exceptionally good at running its business, it had quietly stopped asking one very important question. Did customers still love the product? That question would change everything. By the mid 2000s, Domino's looked like a company that had figured out the pizza business. Its franchise model was expanding rapidly, new stores were opening across the United States and around the world. The business was becoming more efficient every year, and technology was beginning to change how customers ordered food. From almost every business perspective, Domino's was improving. Consistency allowed Domino's to grow faster than many competitors while keeping costs under control. It was a system that rewarded speed, efficiency, and reliability. For a long time, that system worked exactly as intended. Under Dave Brandon's leadership, Domino's continued strengthening those foundations. The company expanded internationally. It invested heavily in technology while much of the restaurant industry still depended on telephone orders. Innovations like online ordering and Pizza Tracker made the experience easier for customers and improved operational efficiency for franchise owners. These weren't flashy ideas, they solved real problems, and it helped Domino's build one of the most sophisticated delivery operations in the industry. Looking back, it's easy to focus on what Domino's got wrong, but that's only half of the story. The company also got many things right. Those decisions would later become some of its greatest advantages. That's what made the situation so unusual. Domino's wasn't a struggling company searching for answers. It was a successful company becoming even more successful. Revenue remained strong, the franchise network kept growing, investors had confidence. The business continued executing its strategy with remarkable consistency. Nothing about the numbers suggested the company was heading towards one of its most important turning points in history. And that's exactly why the warning signs were so difficult to spot. Businesses rarely fail because everything goes wrong at once. More often, they continue improving in areas they have already mastered, while quietly losing touch with the one thing that matters the most: their customers. At Domino's, that disconnect didn't happen overnight. It happened one order, one customer, and one changing expectation at a time. By the time leadership began to notice it, the gap between how the company saw its pizza and how the customer experienced it had become impossible to ignore. The problem with blind spots is that you don't know they exist until something forces you to see them. For Domino's, that moment didn't arrive because sales suddenly collapsed or because competitors overtook the business overnight. It arrived because customers found a way to speak that companies could no longer ignore. Before the internet, a disappointed customer had a limited audience. Maybe a few friends, maybe family. A bad experience usually ended there. By the late 2000s, that had changed completely. Restaurants review websites were growing rapidly. Social media was beginning to influence buying decisions. Customers could now share their opinions with thousands of people before those people had even placed an order. For the first time, Domino's wasn't just competing on pizzas, it was competing with its own reputation. Large companies receive criticism every day. What made this different wasn't the complaint themselves, it was their consistency. Customer surveys, focus groups, online reviews, independent feedbacks. Different sources kept reaching the same conclusion. The message was remarkably clear. Domino's had built one of the fastest and most reliable delivery systems in the industry, but the product at the end of that delivery wasn't meeting customer expectations. Individually, those opinions could be dismissed. Together, they became evidence. That distinction changed everything. A marketing problem can be solved with better advertising. A pricing problem can be solved with promotions. A product problem is different because eventually the customer gets to decide whether your product deserves a second chance or a second purchase. Domino's had spent decades perfecting how it delivered pizzas. It now had to confront a far more uncomfortable question. Had it spent enough time improving the pizza itself? The answer wasn't going to come out of an advertising agency. It had to come from inside the business. Leadership made a decision that many successful companies struggle to make. Instead of defending the product, they decided to investigate it. Teams began collecting customer feedback on a much larger scale. Recipes were tested, ingredients were reviewed, taste comparisons were conducted. The objective wasn't to prove customers wrong, it was to discover whether they were right. The conclusion was difficult to ignore. Years of feedback had been pointing in the same direction. Customers wanted a pizza with more flavor, a richer sauce, a better crust, a product that could compete not just on speed but on taste. The challenge was no longer understanding the problem. The challenge was deciding what to do about it. Because fixing the recipe would be expensive. Rolling it across thousands of restaurants would be even harder. But there was an even bigger risk. What if Domino's admitted the old pizza wasn't good enough and customers still rejected the new one? That wasn't just a product decision. It was a bet on the future of the entire company. At that moment, Domino's had reached a crossroad. It could protect its reputation or it could rebuild it. The company chose the harder path, and the person who would lead that decision was already inside the business. His name was Patrick Doyle. Changing the recipe was the easier challenge. Convincing millions of customers that the change was real was something else entirely. Domino's had spent months redeveloping its pizza. The dough was redesigned, the sauce was reformulated with a stronger blend of herbs and garlic. The cheese blend was improved, the crust received a garlic seasoned finish. Behind those changes were months of testing, customer feedback, and product development involving chefs, food scientists, supply chain teams, and franchise owners. By the end of the process, Domino's believed it finally had a product that would compete on taste. But one problem remained. Customers had heard company promise, new and improved, product for decades. Why should they believe Domino's now? Around this time, leadership at Domino's was also changed. After serving as CEO for more than 10 years, Dave Brandon stepped down in early 2010. His contribution to the business was significant. He had strengthened Domino's operation, expanded its international footprint, and invested early in technology that would later become major competitive advantage. He wasn't leaving behind a broken company. He was leaving behind an efficient one. The challenge facing his successor wasn't operational, it was emotional. Customers no longer trusted the product. The responsibility now belonged to Patrick Doyle. Unlike many turnaround CEOs, Doyle wasn't hired from outside the company. He had spent years leading Domino's US business. He understood the franchise system, he understood the operations. Most importantly, he understood the growing gap between how Domino's viewed its pizza and how customers viewed it. Then came the defining decision. Domino's could have quietly introduced the new recipe, changed the ingredients, launched another advertising campaign, and hoped customer eventually noticed. It would have been the safer choice. Instead, the company chose radical transparency. In late 2009, Domino's launched the Pizza Turnaround campaign. Rather than hiding years of criticism, the advertisements put it at the center of the story. Real customer comments appeared on the screen. Some described crust as tasting like cardboard. Others criticized the sauce. The campaign didn't argue. It didn't make excuses. It acknowledged the criticism and then made one simple promise. We listened, we changed, now judge us again. It was one of the biggest reputational risks in the company's history. If customers tried the new pizza and still disliked it, Domino's wouldn't simply lose an advertising campaign. It would lose the credibility it had just placed on the line. The company had publicly invited millions of people to test whether its claims were true. There would be nowhere left to hide. Behind the scenes, execution became just as important as the message itself. Thousands of franchise owners prepared for the nationwide rollout. Restaurant teams were trained with the new recipe. Supply chains adapted to new ingredients. Operations teams focused on delivering the same quality in every store. Everyone understood something fundamental. The campaign might persuade customers to return once. Only the product could persuade them to return twice. In the first full quarter following the relaunch, US's same-store sales increased by 14.3%, the largest quarterly increase in Domino's history at that time. Customers who had written the company off gave it another chance. Many came back surprised. For the first time in years, the conversation around the Domino's was changing. Not because the company claimed it had improved, but because customers were beginning to say it themselves. The turnaround was no longer a marketing campaign. It was becoming reality. The Pizza Turnaround campaign achieved something incredibly valuable. It earned Domino's a second chance. But second chances don't last very long. Customers are willing to forgive disappointment once. They are far less forgiving if they are disappointed again. Domino's understood that rebuild trust wasn't the end of the turnaround. It was the beginning. Fortunately, the company wasn't starting from scratch. Years before the turnaround, Domino's had already invested heavily in technology and operational efficiency. Those decisions, many of them made under Dave Brandon's leadership, had quietly created an advantage that would become increasingly valuable. Patrick Doyle didn't replace that strategy, he built on it. Instead of treating technology as something customers rarely notice, Domino's began using it to make every order simpler, faster, and more reliable. The philosophy was straightforward. If the pizza had improved, every other part of the experience should improve too. That thinking shaped almost every decision that followed. Online ordering became faster, mobile apps made reordering effortless, customers could save their favorite meals, customize orders, and track deliveries in real time. Features like Pizza Tracker, once considered a novelty, became an expectation. Domino's wasn't trying to build the most advanced technology for its own sake. It was removing friction from every customer's interaction. Small improvements repeated thousands of times every day created a noticeably better experience. The results extended far beyond the kitchen. Customers who returned because of the new recipe found a company that was now easier to order from than many of its competitors. That combination proved difficult to match. A better product attracted customers. A better experience encouraged them to stay. By the early 2020s, more than 80% of Domino's US retail sales were coming through the digital channel, making it one of the most digitally advanced restaurant business in the world. The technology wasn't replacing the pizza, it was strengthening the relationship customers had with their brand. The financial performance reflected those decisions. After the turnaround, Domino's delivered years of sales growth. Its global footprint expanded from roughly 9,000 stores in 2009 to more than 21,000 stores across 90 countries today. Investors who once questioned the company's future watched it become one of the best performing restaurant stocks of the following decade. A company that had struggled to convince customers its pizza was worth buying had transformed into a business studied for its strategy, execution, and long-term consistency. Looking back, it's tempting to search for that single decision that changed everything. The evidence points somewhere else. The recipe mattered, the advertising mattered, technology mattered, leadership mattered, execution mattered. None of those decisions would have achieved the same outcome on their own. The campaign earned attention, the product earned trust, technology rewarded loyalty, and consistent execution turned the loyalty into sustainable growth. That's how Domino's stopped being remembered for the pizzas people criticized and started being remembered for the company that listened. Perhaps that's why Domino's story still stands out today. The company didn't wait until it was bankrupt. It didn't wait until stores started closing across the country. It acted while the business was still growing. That's much harder to do. When a company is losing money, the need for change is obvious. When the revenue is growing, investors are happy and expansion continues. It's much easier to believe everything is fine. Domino's proved that success itself can sometimes become the biggest obstacle to improvement. The Domino's turnaround wasn't really about pizzas, it was about something much bigger. For decades, the company had asked one question: how can we deliver pizza faster? That question helped build a global business. But the turnaround began when Domino's started asking a different question: what if our customers are right? Everything that followed, the new recipe, the pizza turnaround campaign, the technology investment, the years of sustainable growth, began with a single shift in thinking. Every company makes mistakes. Very few are willing to admit them. Even fewer are willing to rebuild themselves around the feedback they receive. Domino's did both. And that's why this isn't just the story of a simple pizza company. It's a story of how listening became one of the strongest competitive advantage a business could have. The comeback wasn't complete the day Domino's admitted it had a problem. It was complete the day the customers agreed problem had been solved. If you liked this episode of Business Comebacks, I'd really appreciate if you liked the video and subscribe to the channel. It genuinely helps these documentaries reach more people. And if there's a company whose turnaround you'd like me to cover next, let me know in the comments below. I read every suggestion and it might just become the next episode. Until then, thank you for watching and I'll see you in the next one.